My son Evan was only 7 when it happened. He was the kind of kid who'd laugh so hard at a joke he couldn't even finish retelling it. He'd giggle at clouds shaped like dragons, chuckle at the sight of ants marching in line, and collapse into fits of laughter when our dog tried to chase its own tail. Laughter was his language, and it used to be mine, too. But that weekend visit to my parents' house, it changed everything. I hadn't seen them in over 2 years, not since I stopped sending money after they accidentally used my college savings to help my sister Lexi get liposuction and veneers. They called it a misunderstanding. I called it betrayal. Still, when Lexi reached out to say our mom's health was declining, I swallowed my grudge and brought Evan for a weekend visit. I should have trusted my gut. I should have remembered what they were capable of. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The first red flag was when we arrived. Lexi opened the door with a smirk, took one look at Evan's mismatched socks and messy curls and said, "Wow, raising a clown, huh?" I laughed it off. Evan didn't. At dinner, my dad barely looked up from his plate. "Kid can't sit still," he muttered, just like his mother. All noise, no value. Evan had been laughing at the gravy boat. It looked like a mini spaceship to him. But after that comment, he shrank into silence. It got worse the next morning. I woke up to the sound of screaming. Evan's voice, sharp and panicked. I rushed downstairs barefoot, heart in my throat. He was on the kitchen floor, holding his mouth, blood dripping between his fingers. Lexi stood above him, arms folded, like she'd just cleaned a stain off her carpet. "He wouldn't shut up," she said flatly. I told him 3 times, then he screamed in my ear. I tapped him. His tooth was probably loose anyway. I couldn't even speak. My legs shook as I picked Evan up. His front tooth was cracked at the root, dangling like a thread. He was sobbing, not just from pain, but confusion, betrayal. My mom came around the corner holding her coffee, sipping casually. "Lexi's got a short fuse, that's all. Don't raise loudmouths if you want peace in someone else's house." Someone else's house. That's how she framed it, like we were intruders. When I told her I was taking Evan to the ER, she shrugged. "It's just a baby tooth." My dad from the recliner chimed in without turning his head. "He's useless like his mother. Always has been." I was shaking. My purse was on the counter. I grabbed it, picked Evan up, and left without another word. We drove straight to urgent care. His mouth was swollen. The doctor said the tooth had fractured down to the root and would need to be pulled. Evan kept whispering, "Did I do something bad?" I held his hand and said, "No, sweetheart. You were just being happy." That night, I sat on my couch staring at nothing while Evan slept on my chest with gauze between his gums. I thought about how many years I'd spent hoping my family would change. How many times I told myself I was overreacting. I thought about Lexi's smirk, my mother's shrug, my father's slur. And something inside me snapped, not just with anger, but with clarity. They didn't just hate me. They hated that Evan was me too. So I decided to take the one thing they valued more than love, more than family, more than anything else: control. It was time to take that from them piece by piece while smiling, and they wouldn't even see it coming. 2 weeks after the incident, Evan stopped laughing. Not a single giggle. Not when I slipped on his Lego and pretended to fall dramatically. Not when our dog did her signature spin dance. He just stared, quiet, afraid. My son, the boy whose laughter used to fill rooms, was mute from trauma, and that's when I knew this wasn't about getting even anymore. It was about saving what was left of him. So, I did something I'd never done before. I visited my parents' house alone. Lexi opened the door with her usual smugness. "Well, look who came crawling back." I smiled gently. "Just wanted to talk." She stepped aside, amused. My parents were in the kitchen, Dad watching a rerun of his retirement speech on his tablet, and Mom microwaving something and humming. "Nice of you to show," Dad muttered without turning. I didn't sit. I stood still in their kitchen, the same one where Evan had been attacked, and said, "You all crossed a line. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to say goodbye." Mom raised a brow. "Oh, one of your dramatic monologues. Spare us." Lexi sipped her soda, feet up. "So, are you cutting us off again? Boo-hoo?" "No," I said calm. "I'm cutting myself off entirely." Dad laughed a cold bark. "You say that every year." I nodded. "Right. But this year, I have a reason you'll finally care about." That got their attention. They assumed it was money. It always was. But it wasn't. I pulled out the papers from my bag and placed them on the table. 3 notarized copies. "What's this?" my mom snapped, flipping one open. "Power of attorney revocation," I said quietly. "Bank signature authority removed, emergency contact removed, medical proxy revoked. All gone. You can't speak for me. You'll never speak for Evan ever again." "You ungrateful little—" Dad growled. But I wasn't done. "I've also filed a restraining order. You won't be allowed within 500 FT of my son." "You can't," Lexi scoffed. I turned to her. "Oh, and you? You broke his tooth. That was assault on a minor." "That's a joke," she sneered. "No, the joke is that I didn't press charges." Then I leaned forward and dropped the final envelope on the table. It was addressed to their church. "That's a full report with photos of Evan's injuries, your text messages, audio of you saying he was just visiting, not family, and Lexi, yours, saying he needed to be taught a lesson for being a brat." Mom paled. "You wouldn't." "I would, and I did." "You think anyone will believe you?" Dad snarled. "We raised you." I finally sat down, dead calm. "Exactly, which is why they will." Mom's hands shook, Lexi's eyes darted, and then came the final blow. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I also made sure to contact every member of your country club board. You know, the one that just gave you that legacy award for exemplary community parenting. They'll receive the same report by courier." "You spiteful," Lexi hissed. But I didn't flinch. "You didn't just humiliate my child. You convinced him his joy was a flaw. You cracked his tooth. But worse, you cracked something deeper. So I'm cracking everything. You built the fake image, the perfect family act, your hollow pride, all of it." I stood up. "Oh, and your portraits in the church lobby are already being removed. Turns out public shaming of children doesn't look great next to stained glass." "You'll regret this," Dad shouted after me. But I smiled as I opened the door. "No, I'll heal from this." The fallout started 3 days later. Their church issued a formal statement condemning their behavior and stripped their honorary memberships. Their longtime friends, the book club crowd, and real estate peers started unfollowing them online. Invitations dried up. Then came the real punch. Dad's prestigious mentoring board rescinded his community figure role. Turns out no one wanted a child-shaming retiree teaching leadership to teens. Lexi lost her job 3 weeks later. Apparently, word of a possible lawsuit reached her firm, not from me, but from a family friend who saw the photos and made noise. Turns out corporations don't want to be associated with bullies who knock kids' teeth out. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it. I didn't even tell Evan. I just signed him up for a new art class. The instructor was gentle, fun. Evan was shy the first week, but the 3rd week he smiled. The 4th week he laughed at his own clay dinosaur, and the 5th week he told a joke so loud the whole class laughed with him. That night, as I tucked him in, he whispered, "I'm not bad, right?" I kissed his forehead. "You're joy, baby. That's what you are." But inside me, I wasn't done yet. They had taken so much from him. Now it was time to take from them something they never gave me: dignity, peace, and control. And I knew exactly how. The first time my mother called me after everything exploded, she didn't ask how Evan was. She didn't ask how I was. She asked if I really had to go that far. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice trembled, not from guilt, but from embarrassment. The type of fear people feel when their reputation slips through their fingers like dry sand. That's all she ever valued. Reputation. Lexi tried next. Just talk to me, she begged. You're taking it too far. I lost my job. I had to sell my car. I didn't respond. They wanted forgiveness when they'd never shown a flicker of it toward a 6-year-old child who laughed too loudly. But here's the thing about people like my family. They only notice absence when it becomes inconvenient. So I gave them exactly what they couldn't handle. Not rage, not attention. Silence. Months passed. Evan began smiling more. He started sleeping through the night again. He won most imaginative in his new art class, and for the first time since the kitchen incident, he let himself giggle in public. Meanwhile, my parents, they were unraveling slowly, publicly, but never dramatically enough to be noticed in the news. Just enough to feel the shift, the loss of power, of status, of illusion. But that wasn't the revenge. Not yet. My revenge began on a foggy Wednesday morning in November, the day I submitted the final set of forms that would make it permanent. I had found something, a small but legal loophole. Years ago, my parents had asked me to become executive of their legacy archive. Boxes of photos, family films, newspaper clippings, awards, everything they hoped to one day donate to a local museum collection of notable families. They'd spent years curating it. Dozens of labeled VHS tapes, color-coded photo albums. My mom called it the Legacy Vault. They believed it proved they were a model American family. They even asked me to digitize it all for preservation. I said yes. And I did, but not the way they expected. See, I digitized everything only to strip out every single reference to Lexi and my parents. Every photo with them cropped, every video muted or cut, every write-up or article they kept rewritten in plain captions. What remained? A collection titled The Boy Who Laughed, a visual archive centered around Evan, his joy, his moments, his laughter, all filtered through my lens, my words, my truth. And then I donated that to the same local archive my parents had aimed for under my name as curator, not as revenge, as correction. The day the exhibit opened quietly. No media, just a public access link and local library listing. I sent them a postcard. No message, just a screenshot of the exhibit title. The Boy Who Laughed. A celebration of joy in the face of cruelty. Lexi posted a cryptic meltdown on social media 3 days later. My mother stopped attending her church meetings. My father reportedly cursed out a librarian who casually mentioned the exhibit during a community talk. And me? I took Evan to the exhibit. He didn't know the full backstory. He just saw photos of himself drawing, building sandcastles, sleeping in my arms as a baby. He pointed at one and whispered, "That's when I made the dinosaur." I smiled. He saw his life, not their shame, not their labels, just his joy. And that's when I knew the revenge was complete. I hadn't ruined their names. I hadn't exposed them on television or forced them out of their home. No, I had done something far worse. I erased them from the only legacy they ever cared about. They wanted to be remembered. Instead, they'd vanish in silence while the only name that lived on was the boy they called a leech. The boy they said didn't belong. He belonged. He thrived. And they faded. That night, as Evan fell asleep on my chest, he mumbled something into my sweater. "Thanks for picking me, even if they didn't." Tears filled my eyes. "I always picked you, baby," I whispered. "They just didn't matter enough to say no to." And that was the truth. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. All I did was write a better ending.